boys and girls, welcome back to art. Today we're going to be looking at shapes and creating a cityscape, which is a little bit different from a landscape because landscapes are going to have more of the land and showing with a few maybe man-made things, but a cityscape, and you probably looked at some of the pictures that I put on with a file today in our assignment, that a cityscape shows like different buildings in the urban areas of cities and their shapes and stuff and the outline of them. Like we have our San Antonio city skyline, and you will see the Tower of the Americas in there. And so you look at the pictures on the file that I posted for your assignment this week, and you can see some cityscapes and everything. And you'll notice that most of the buildings, they have kind of a rectangle or square shape, but then they also have shapes that they change at the top. So I hope you listen to the story that I posted on there as well, the shape of things, and listen to that because it talks about how shapes can come together to create images. And this is where we're going to be using shapes to come together and create our cityscape, and also practice using our scissors and getting a little bit better with our scissor skills. So you're going to need a 9x12 black piece of construction paper, and there's two ways you can put your paper. You can either do it this way where it's vertical, or you can flip it this way where it's horizontal. So today we're going to actually be working on it horizontal, like it's laying down. So you're going to need a black piece of construction paper. If you don't have black construction paper, boys and girls, I do have paper that is up in the lobby of our school so that you can pick it up there. So some other things that I have are just some scraps of construction paper that I had left over from probably another art assignment. So you can see that I just have that. And we're going to use these colored papers. If you don't have construction paper, you can send me an email or a message on Class Dojo to let me know that you need some construction paper pieces, or you can even color your paper and use that as your buildings as well. Don't think that you can't do this assignment because you don't have something. You can draw your buildings on a paper and cut them out and glue them onto here as well. So we talked about shapes, and we said squares and rectangles. So a lot of our buildings are some rectangles, and so we're going to be cutting our rectangles here. And you see, like, I have some buildings like this pink paper I found. I was like, well, this is a perfect size. But first we're going to cut and see what we need, and then we'll kind of lay it out. Then we'll make our tops. So I'm just going to cut straight across here because I had this nice little scrap. And I'm going to place it on here. I'm not going to glue anything. I'm not ready to do that. I want to kind of design my composition here, boys and girls. And I could have some shorter buildings, or I could have some really tall buildings. So I'm actually going to cut, and you notice I had kind of a square rectangle piece anyways. And look, to make my rectangle, I'm just cutting straight up right now. And look, I've got a nice long rectangle. And again, I'm going to make sure that I cover this entire paper on here, and I'm going to just kind of lay it out right now, and then kind of design my composition of my cityscape, and then I'll decide what else I want to do. So now I've got this nice rectangular piece of blue construction paper. I'm going to make this one a little bit skinnier, but I'm also going to make it shorter. This one's going to be a shorter building. I don't want one quite so tall. But you know what? I don't really like that, so I'm not going to use that one. Maybe I'll use it later for something else. I'm going to make a taller one this time, actually. So I'm just going to cut straight up, and then I make a turn, and I cut over. And look at that. I've got a nice little rectangle. Remember when we're using our scissors that our thumb goes on top and we chomp, chomp, chomp? Do not have your hands turn like this. You want to make sure that you have your thumb on top. So I'm going to use that nice tall building, I think. And look, I still have some more space over here, boys and girls, so I'm going to definitely use more color and more pieces to create my cityscape. I got this nice little light pink piece here, and I'm going to cut a smaller piece. This is going to be a short building now this time. I kind of wanted to add where it's kind of moving to get your eyes moving on the paper. So the next thing I'm going to add is, I might get all the building in there, but I'm going to add another rectangle, and this one's going to be a little bit taller than that pink building. but it's also going to be skinnier because it's going to be kind of cut off from the picture. It didn't make it quite over here into the photo. So now I've got kind of what I want, but now remember we said that some of the buildings have different kinds of shapes and tops on them. Some are flat. Some might have, like this one I thought kind of looked like a crayon or something, but had kind of a triangle, and this is a triangle point. But you can do different things with your buildings. So if I wanted to take and make this building, and I saw one that was kind of like this, and so I'm just going to kind of cut a square off here and cut a square off here, boys and girls. And so now I've just kind of made a different shape to my building, and I saw one like that on our San Antonio skyline. So I'm going to do one like that. And you know what? This one I'm going to leave alone. I'm not even going to cut the top of this one. I'm going to leave it. But then this one, I'm going to make kind of just a triangle. And the way I do that is, you see how I'm angling my scissors? I cut straight up to that middle point. And then I'm going to cut straight diagonal like this. And I'm going to create another building. Kind of looks like a house top on there. So I'm going to create that. And then I'm going to create another piece. And you know what? I had some extra pink over here. And I know that I already created my building, but now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I'm going to make it kind of look like a hat on its head or something. So I'm going to cut this nice little piece right here. We don't know what's on top of this building, but it's got a different kind of roof. So we're going to create that, and I'm going to be able to put that on top of it. And see, a little big, we're going to cut it off just a little bit. But that way I got a nice little roof topper up there. So creating a bigger house. And then I'm going to leave this one alone. And I'm going to now, I like what I have on my composition. So now I'm actually going to glue down my pieces, boys and girls. So when we're actually gluing these buildings down, we've kind of laid it out. I want you to actually trace with a very thin line of glue the shape that you are going to be putting onto your paper. And we already laid it out, so we know where we're going to be putting it. But notice I traced it. It's not right on the edge, but I traced it around. And so when I lay it down, I want to make sure that I come all the way to the bottom here, boys and girls. So I'm going to lay it down on here and make sure that I lay it down. And then I'm going to hold it down so that these pieces don't fly up and flop around. So I'm going to glue it down, and I'm going to count to 20 so that I can hold each piece down and make sure that it sticks to my paper. And since this is all we're doing today, we have the time to really get our pieces on here how we want. So we said this one was next. So again, I take my glue and I trace a nice thin shape. We don't need a lot of glue, boys and girls. We don't want it oozing out or anything. That kind of gets messy. Our hands get messy, our table gets messy. Again, I'm making sure that it comes down here. If you have a gap in here, that's okay, because our buildings have gaps in them too. They're not right on top of each other. So I'm gluing it all the way at the bottom so my buildings aren't floating in the air. So there's one, another one. Again, I'm going to put glue on the back. Notice I'm tracing the shape, and I'm not right on the edge, and it's a nice thin line. And again, I'm going to place it on here so that it lies nice and flat. Go ahead and glue the rest of your pieces on, and then we're going to stop for that today, boys and girls. Next week when we come back, we'll be creating more shapes and drawing our sky for our nighttime cityscape. Bye, boys and girls.